Welcome back, everyone. Ready to dive in with me today? We're tackling the idea of spiritual refreshment.
And how? We've got some interesting material to work with, too.
I know. I'm really intrigued by these two sources we've got lined up. They're pretty different.
Yeah, totally different forms of expression, which is what makes this so fascinating.
Exactly. So, on one hand, we've got this devotional, his cooling stream.
From the Apostolic Faith Church website, right?
Yep. And then we've got the lyrics from this gospel song, Cooling Water from Grandma's Well by Melvin L. Williams. Both are using this water imagery, but in totally different ways.
That's what caught my eye, too. One's like personal reflection, everyday life stuff, and the other is, well, music. Powerful, evocative language, totally different vibes.
Right. So what we're trying to figure out in this deep dive,
Hmm.
how do these sources, even though they're coming at it from different angles, speak to that universal need, that feeling of needing God to just meet us and replenish us spiritually?
And whether those different methods, the personal story versus the musical expression, actually work together. Like maybe they make a point that a straightforward explanation wouldn't.
Okay, so both the devotional and the song, water everywhere. The metaphor is central to both
But
of them.
that's classic, right? But why is it so effective when we're talking about spiritual dryness and then that relief, that feeling of being replenished when we connect with God?
Yeah, why water?
It's more than just being a familiar substance, though. That's part of it, for sure. But water's got this whole symbolic meaning in the Bible.
Oh, right. Cleansing, renewal.
Exactly. Even the Holy Spirit's connected to water.
Whoa, so it's like tapping into something people already have strong feelings about.
Precisely. Like, think about baptism. It's a physical action, but it's loaded with spiritual meaning. Washing away the old, embracing the new. So when these sources use water, they're instantly connecting with anyone familiar with those ideas from the Bible.
A shortcut to understanding. Got it. Okay, so in his cooling stream, the author tells this story, right, about being in a parking lot, watching construction workers try to beat the heat.
And it sparks a whole reflection, yeah.
It's so clever how they take something totally ordinary and turn it into this moment of insight.
That's what makes it so relatable. The author sees those workers desperate for relief from the physical heat, and it clicks. They're feeling overheated too, but emotionally and spiritually.
Such a powerful comparison. I bet everyone listening has felt that way at some point.
Oh, for sure. We've all had those days where we're just totally drained. The author then talks about getting into an elevator, feeling overwhelmed, and just saying a quick prayer, and boom, instant spiritual refreshment.
It's like that elevator moment where everything shifts. Amazing how a small thing can have such a big impact. Have you ever had one of those? Like a quick moment of connection that changes your whole perspective?
Countless times, honestly, and that's what's great about the author sharing this personal story. Spiritual dryness can sound kind of vague, but this story makes it real, something we can all get.
Makes you think, okay, what are my overheating moments? Where are my elevators?
Exactly. And then we've got cooling water. Man, those lyrics are something else. Vivid, emotional, feet out of miry clay, loosing chains, that whole feeling of being totally set free.
Powerful stuff.
And that's where music shines, especially in gospel. It's not just about information, it's about expressing the raw emotion of faith. Those lyrics, with their strong imagery, really hit you in the gut. You feel that transformation.
You can practically feel the weight being lifted and the way it links physical feelings like cool water
Yeah.
to the spiritual experience. It makes it so much more real, more impactful.
Exactly. It gives words and feelings to something that can seem abstract and hard to grasp. You're not just told that God provides relief. You can almost feel that cooling water yourself.
And here's where I think it gets really interesting. The song uses water on all these different levels. We've got the cooling water from Grandma's well that seems to be about dealing with everyday struggles.
It brings in that sense of family history, tradition, really powerful stuff, especially in gospel music.
Right. But then there's the water of salvation, that life-changing moment when he saved my soul. And then there's even the water of baptism, that public declaration of faith when they took me down in the water. What do you think about all those layers of water? What are they trying to tell us?
It's like the song saying that spiritual replenishment isn't just one thing. God meets our needs in all these different ways. That cooling water refreshes us in our daily struggles, sure, but there's also salvation, that living water that truly satisfies our deepest thirst. And then there's baptism, that symbolic water of a new beginning.
Like a whole symphony of spiritual experience all tied together by this one powerful image. This is giving me a lot to think about. What about you? What really stood out to you in these sources?
What hit me hardest is how both the devotional and the song, even though they're so different, are talking about something universal. That feeling of spiritual thirst, that's a human thing, you know? Everyone gets that need for replenishment no matter what their background is.
Like we're all hardwired for connection, that feeling of belonging, of being filled up.
Totally. And both the devotional and the song are pushing us to recognize that thirst and actually seek God's refreshing presence in our lives. But, what does that actually look like? How do we make that connection in a real practical way? That's what I keep coming back to.
You're right. We've talked about the need, but what about the how? That's something we definitely need to dig into. But before we get to that, what about you? What's grabbing your attention in all this? What resonates with your experience?
That whole thing about finding those personal elevators, that really got me thinking.
Me too.
Yeah.
Where are those places, those practices where we can consistently find that spiritual refreshment? It's definitely something to explore.
Welcome back. Glad to have you with us as we keep digging into this idea of spiritual refreshment.
I'm really excited to hear more about what you guys are thinking about those elevators, those places where you find that kind of renewal.
Some great stuff came up there.
Seems like everyone has their own unique spot, their own way to connect. But how do we tap into that more regularly? It can't just be about waiting for those random moments of inspiration.
You're right. It's got to be more than that. It takes effort, I think. Being intentional about making space for those moments where we can connect with God. Like in the devotional, remember how the author talked about feeling overheated? I bet everyone listening can relate to that.
Oh, absolutely. Our world is just go, go, go these days. Information overload, deadlines, pressure. It's so easy to lose sight of what really matters.
Exactly. And the song, those images of miry clay and chains really paint a picture, don't they? It's that feeling of being stuck, weighed down, maybe even trapped.
Totally. That feeling of being burdened, carrying all that heavy stuff around. It's not just physical. Spiritually, we can feel that way too. Past mistakes, the pressure to live up to certain standards, or just that feeling of being disconnected from God.
Yeah, like carrying around baggage that keeps us from feeling that lightness and freedom that comes with a truly refreshed spirit.
So if we're feeling that thirst, that longing for a deeper connection, where do we start? The author of the devotional found it in a quick prayer, whispered in an elevator of all places.
Shows us that it doesn't have to be complicated, right? Spiritual replenishment. It's not always about those big, showy things. Sometimes it's the small, quiet moments where we just turn to God.
It's about being aware of those elevator moments, those opportunities that pop up, and making the most of them.
Sure.
And what I thought was cool about the song is that it kind of hints at the power of community, too. Remember that line about being dipped in the water?
Oh, for sure. The idea of shared experience, right? For a lot of people, church is that source of strength and support. A place to share those burdens, celebrate the good stuff, and find encouragement from others who are on the same journey.
It's about having that network, those people who get you and where you're at. People who celebrate your wins and help you stay grounded in your faith. It's like finding a shared well where everyone can drink from the same source of spiritual nourishment.
Love that image. So there are lots of paths to that replenishment, it seems. Prayer, being in nature, music, community. It's about finding what works for you, what feeds your soul and gets you closer to God.
No one-size-fits-all solution, right? It's about being open, trying things out, and discovering what resonates with your own spiritual journey.
Absolutely. And I think both the devotional and the song highlight that really well. The devotional is all about that personal, almost private moment of renewal, while the song brings in the energy and the shared experience of a faith community.
Both using that water metaphor to get the point across. But going back to the song for a second, that line, cooling water from Grandma's well, that really stuck with me. It's such a strong image.
Yeah.
But what do you think it represents? Is it just nostalgia, or is there something more to it?
I think it's deeper than just good memories. Grandma as well. It makes you think of family history, those traditions passed down, the wisdom that gets shared over generations.
Drawing from that deep well of spiritual understanding built up over time.
Exactly. And that wisdom, it comes from all sorts of places, right? Scripture, the lives of people we look up to spiritually, even our own families and communities.
It's like connecting with that whole fabric of faith, finding the threads that resonate with your own experience.
And realizing, hey, I'm not alone in this. People have been down this path before, searching for that same source of strength and renewal.
That's comforting, isn't it? To know that others have been there and found what they were looking for. We're not starting from scratch. We're tapping into something that's always been there.
Totally. And that reminds me of another big idea. Both the devotional and the song point to that whole transformative power of God's grace. In the devotional, it's that elevator moment where the author suddenly feels their burdens lifted, a sense of peace and being made whole again. And in the song, it's that image of being freed from chains, having a new walk and a new song in your heart.
Moving from that state of spiritual dryness to one of fullness and joy.
You got it. And that transformation, that shift in how we see things, it's not a one-time thing, is it? It's a process we keep growing, being renewed, going deeper in our relationship with God.
It's about letting that refreshment soak into every part of our lives. Not just a quick fix, but a way of being.
Yes. And now we come to the tricky part, right? Having those moments of clarity and connection is great, but how do we hold on to that feeling? How do we make it part of our everyday routine?
The million-dollar question. We get the need. We've explored some ways to tap into that spiritual wellspring. But how do we actually make it work in the real world with all its distractions and demands?
And how do we make sure those moments of being replenished aren't just temporary, but actually become part of a journey of spiritual growth and change?
Those are the questions we need to be asking. But before we jump into that, let's hear what you've got to say. What challenges do you face in trying to maintain that sense of spiritual refreshment? What gets in the way? Welcome back, everyone. Really appreciate you sticking with us on this deep dive into spiritual refreshment.
And thanks for all your thoughts on how hard it can be to stay connected in our busy lives.
It's tough, right?
Yeah.
But like you said, being aware of the challenges is the first step towards dealing with them. So in this last part, let's shift gears a bit. We've been talking about the need for spiritual refreshment. Now let's get practical. What are some things we can actually do to make it happen more consistently in our lives? Where do we even start?
Okay, so I think one of the most basic things, and both the devotional and the song touched on this, is prayer.
Makes sense.
Remember how that simple prayer in the elevator was such a turning point for the author of His Cooling Stream? And the song, it's almost like the lyrics are a prayer, pouring your heart out to God.
It's like that direct connection, a lifeline when you're feeling lost or overwhelmed.
Right. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy, just a quick thought. Acknowledging God's presence, asking for help.
Just making it part of your routine, not just a last resort when things are falling apart. What else can we do to build that connection?
Getting out in nature is huge, I think. There's something about being surrounded by God's creation that just calms you down and lifts your spirits.
Yeah, totally. A walk in the park, a hike in the woods, even just sitting in your backyard listening to the birds. It reminds you that there's something bigger going on.
It's like a visible sign that God is all around us. You just have to slow down and notice it, and it's incredibly peaceful and refreshing.
Speaking of refreshing, cooling water, the gospel song really emphasized the power of music. How can we use that to nourish our souls?
Music is so powerful, right? It gets to your emotions, makes you feel connected to yourself and to something beyond yourself. Listening to music that lifts you up, singing hymns, playing an instrument, all of that can feed your soul.
It's like music can skip right past your logical brain and go straight to your heart.
For sure. And for some people, music is their way of praying. It's how they express their feelings and connect with God in a way they can't do with words alone.
There's the beautiful. And then, of course, both the devotional and the song mentioned community.
Right.
So how does being part of a faith community contribute to our well-being, spiritually speaking? Why is that sense of belonging so important?
We're social creatures, right? We need to feel like we belong, like we're loved and supported. And faith community can do that in a special way. It's a place to share the ups and downs, to encourage each other, and to grow in your faith together.
Having people who get where you're coming from, who celebrate with you and keep you grounded, it's like sharing those elevator moments with each other, finding strength and inspiration in everyone's experiences.
Absolutely. Being part of a worship service, a Bible study, even volunteering together, all of that can deepen your connection to God and to each other.
Okay, so we've got prayer, nature, music, community. What else can we add to that list? Are there other ways to cultivate spiritual refreshment that we might be missing?
One thing that gets overlooked a lot, especially these days, is silence and solitude. It's so hard to find quiet time just to be still and listen to your heart.
Yeah, we're so used to constant noise and stimulation.
Right. But if you never have those quiet moments, it's easy to lose touch with yourself and with God. Even a few minutes a day, meditation, journaling, just sitting in silence, that can make a huge difference.
Making space for God to speak to you, turning down the volume of the world so you can hear those quiet whispers in your heart.
Exactly. And here's the thing, there's no one right way to do this. It's about finding what works for you. The mix of practices that fits your life and helps you connect with God.
A journey of discovery, right? Figuring out what truly feeds your soul and gets you closer to God.
And as you go on that journey, as you keep looking for that spiritual nourishment, you'll find that God is always there, ready to meet your needs, to fill you up with his love and grace.
I love that. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I hope you've gotten some valuable insights and some practical tools for finding that refreshment, that spiritual strength in your own life.
It's your journey to shape the possibilities are endless.
Keep searching, keep growing, and keep diving deep, everyone.